I believe that all sorcerers should be buffed.
Hello, my fellow sorcerers who presumably have seen the title and got here and gone, yeah, you know what? It is bullshit that barbarians are doing better than us. It's outrageous. It's unfair. We were the kings of Season 2 until Abattoir of Zir came along and ruined everything, those damn Hammer of the Ancienting savages. Okay, no, look, that's not where this is going. I think it's fair to say that every class, Sorcerer included, has had a wonderful time in Season 2, especially compared to Season 1. Then again, that's like saying walking through the park is a great experience compared to being actively tortured. It's not wrong, but it also doesn't necessarily convey anything meaningful. In any case, what I actually kind of want to get at is something that now we've wound down, right? We're approaching the new year, we're approaching the sort of dead zone twixt seasons where no one dare tread except the seldom few that are still, they say to this day, trying to get a Harlequin's crest. And I think that it's worth then looking back in order to look forward on what actually needs to change and not change when it comes to the classes. And of course, the one I care about, the one I know about, the one I feel like I can speak about is Sorcerer. I've been a Sorcerer in pre-season, Sorcerer in Season 1, Sorcerer in Season 2. Very outspoken on the class over its many fundamental flaws, especially when they nuked it from orbit like they did everyone in that colossally poor 1.1. Alright, so patch 1.1, fixing Sorcerer, the buffs we need, let's go!
A few moments later.
And everything in between. And while, as I say, Season 2, huge improvement. Sorcerer's never felt better to play, as every other class. It ultimately, though, is kind of fake, in a sense. And that fakeness is from the fact that Ball Lightning does a lot of damage.
What did you say?
I know, I'm really hitting you with some revelations right now, aren't I? But it's true, Ball Lightning does a lot of damage. Perhaps too much damage, perhaps it was buffed too much, perhaps it wasn't intended to go to this kind of level because it was ridiculous how much it gained from its tweaks. Like, it has skyrocketed to inordinately the most potent single ability in the game, kinda not named Hota. In any case, when you do so much damage that everything you touch disintegrates in seconds, it becomes very easy to forget about any kind of problems you might have had before. Let's say, for example, you were a really squishy class and die very easily. That's frustrating, but if you suddenly start one-shotting everything you vaguely look at, well then nothing can kill you anymore because it's already dead before it's registered you're in the room. And suddenly you start feeling really great about your class. Now that's a very simple, contained example. There is layers and nuance to it, but in a vacuum that's kind of what's happened in Season 2. There has been straight-up mechanical improvements, again, to every class. Things do work better fundamentally than they did before. There have been changes to skills, to paragon, to the seasonal mechanic as well. Things feel better than they ever have. But I do think the number one thing that has made Season 2 so much better than the previous season is that we simply are so powerful that it's almost impossible not to have a great time. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing at all. But we do eventually reach this point where it's like, look, either they finally accept that they have to start nerfing again, as much as that word is a little bit scary after the last time they tried. They have stuck to their guns, and credit to Blizzard for genuinely not nerfing anything all of Season 2, even the things that, let's be honest, are clearly unintended bugs or even straight up exploits. They have just let us have our fun. And that was cathartic, it was needed, it was a cleanse after what happened. But if this continues for all of Diablo's life cycle, the power bloat and the power creep is just going to get untenable, and the content required to combat how strong we are is going to get, well, more and more artificially numbery bad. Like Upper Abattoir of Zir that really isn't too fun to push. Outside of it not being rewarding, it's just a big old fat numbers test, and there is a limit to how far perfecting your build and playing well will get you. I found it incredibly satisfying to push to tier 15 with a sub-level 10 blood glyph, because that was all me, just doing it, reacting well to the enemies, a strategy in the clear, my build being as peak as it could. Going any further would have been like watching a painting of grass growing dry, because all it would have required is mindlessly farming the blood glyph. And I think we are in danger of a numbers arms race if a slight change in policy isn't implemented. And I do think it will be, in fairness. I think Season 3 will see a little bit of a papering over some cracks that are showing, bringing some stuff back in line, bringing some other things up, and generally sort of soft resetting, but in a much nicer and more user-friendly way than that just really ugly, kind of reckless hammer that was the patch. We all remember the patch. In any case, what does all have to do with Sorcerer? Well, the thing is, Ball Lightning is amazing. It's been amazing, and I'm so glad it happened. But if every single season is, hey, get to Torment, make your Ball Lightning build, and don't look back for the rest of time, it's gonna start getting dull, isn't it? So while I'm not necessarily advocating for Ball Lightning being toned back, per se, I wanted to focus on some things that I think could really be looked at and brought up. Hence why I think Sorcerer needs some buffs, as does every other class in certain aspects, but we're not here to talk about them. First and foremost, the core issues of Sorcerer, a lot of them still remain. I still think we could do with a third enchantment slot. I still think we're limited on creativity because of that. We still have to use 2, 3, 4 defensives in essentially every single build. Less so with how much damage we were doing, but if that damage ever gets taken away, we will start to feel that again. Having our resistances taken care for us, finally, with our intelligence and paragon, is really cool, and it was nice to have that extra freedom the other classes didn't really get to have, a nice perk of being a sorcerer. But undoubtedly we still feel squishy if anything ever does get to actually hit us properly. That was exaggerated by Abattoir, but even in a tier 100, if you're just kind of stood there, the speed at which you are, well, deleted even with a proper defensive build is alarming compared to the other classes from my experience. So all of the talks that I've had in the past, while we are in a better state, I think a lot of the base core foundational issues do remain, and that's the kind of stuff that can only change between seasons, or maybe even larger in the expansion itself at the end of next year, but that's a long time to wait. So while I could go over all of the sort of design problems or the mechanical problems, I don't think this is the right place for it. I want to wait and see what Season 3 looks like, and as I said, I am happy, right? Season 2 has been great. I have loved being a sorcerer. I have had genuine fun, like properly. It has been a good time. This is sort of the baseline of what Diablo should be, and it's nice that I can actually look at it and go, yeah, I feel compelled to do builds, to play, to push, to see how far I can take it. I enjoy the fact I'm a sorcerer. But there is little sort of things that I still think would love to be ironed out, and we'd all be very happy if it was, and I could spend a lot of time talking about them. But for now, I want to actually, you know, and I do want to stress, this isn't like a complaining piece or anything like that. It's just a nice little look back and look forward. As I said, overall, I am, as I just highlighted, quite chuffed. but I wanted to focus in on just a couple moves that I think would be nice to have perhaps some push into the spotlight. And there is, I would say, 3 in particular that have never got to shine sorcerously, and I would love them to either get beneficial seasonal mechanics, whatever Season 3 tends to be, and perhaps new uniques to give them twists to their effect that actually promote them being in place, and maybe associated skills on the tree or paragon glyphs with them get a little bit of a tweak up too. And I would love to know if you agree or not with my choices here. But the first one that I want to sort of highlight then is our good old friend Incinerate. Yes, indeed, Incinerate. I love this, I really do. A actual full-on beam of fire, like, that is great. It is fun, it's just a nice, simple, hold and burn. But standing there channeling just goes against how you need to play in Diablo. Constant movement and spamming, and you can't tank enemies, and it's just sort of an antithesis playstyle. It is better than it's ever been, and I managed to make an actual genuinely working endgame capable Incinerate build this season, but I want that pushed. Flamescar isn't enough, there isn't enough support. If we could really play into this tank where while you're channeling, you're so hard to kill and you're pumping out fire, but you pay for that with the fact that, you're still, so it's not exactly a speedy build, that would be really cool. I think it shouldn't be just this thing that you channel when you have nothing else to do, which feels like how they want it. Like, you've got your firewalls down, you've got your Hydra up, okay, might as well do some couple seconds of Incinerate. It's a little bit, after the incredible beamage that we got in Diablo 3, I think Incinerate coming back in a real meaningful way in future seasons would be awesome, and something I really hope actually happens. In fact, I think just general damage over time still needs more help, even though it's got more help than ever with X-Files and the Vampiric powers. It's still undoubtedly outclassed, and fire specifically, you either do Firewall or you sort of ignore it, and Incinerate is in this really awkward position because of it. The next one then is Frozen Orb. Now, Frozen Orb makes a great enchantment effect, and moves existing to be good, compelling enchantment options, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think Frozen Orb is one of the best arguments for a third enchantment slot. A couple passives like Firebolt that just add burning, but then if we had the flexibility to use a slot on throwing out loads of Frozen Orbs while you do other things, that would be great, because that's a visual feast, just seeing them exploding everywhere. But an actual build using them? There's not really much going on for that. We have an aspect that helps, lets it stay behind, explode more, but there isn't really a lot going on. A Frozen Orb build that lets you cannon them out while having the enchantment for even more if we get a new unique that twists it in some way, even just a gravitational style but for Frozen Orb would be really interesting. A real icy, freezy version of Ball Lightning. And while Frozen Orb definitely has been and is viable, you can make a tier 100 Uber Lilith capable Frozen Orb build no problem, it's certainly down the lower echelons of Sorcerer, and it's an iconic skill that I would love to see get the spotlight for a season. Then we go to perhaps the one that I am saddest about, Meteor. Dropping a meteorite on your enemies, the Armageddon spell, right? It's such a classic. From D&D to RPGs, the pulling it out of the sky, down from orbit, and the destruction it should contain. And it does less damage than a fireball. I mean, not exactly, but certainly less DPS, and it just feels anticlimactic. It feels clunky to use, it's a bit expensive, and the enchantment effect is garbage because the chance is so low that just getting a buff like that going to like 20% or something, maybe that's a bit too much. I'm not trying to balance the game myself, just, talking about it. But if this was a reliable thing to build around, go crazy and unlucky hit, and then actually have these meteor chains, well, that would be so much fun. I think Meteor is one that can be not perhaps saved, but really given new life with just some numbers increasing as opposed to pure mechanical alterations. Meteor should be fantastic. It just is in all except just its performance. It's slow to come down, it's fairly slow to cast, it's got so much potential that I think is untapped, and Meteor, out of everything, I think is prime for getting a unique that makes it go crazy. That's what I really want to see in Season 3, a unique for Meteor, and one that does something meaningful. And lastly, a bonus one I kind of want to throw out is just sort of Conjuration in general. Your Hydra, your Ice Blades, your Lightning Spear. Now don't get me wrong, Ice Blades is fantastically useful. It's found new life again in Abattoir of Zir as a cooldown reducting machine with its enchantment. It used to be even better back in the beta when you could have an unlimited amount of them and it was so much fun and you built up this swarm, and let that happen again! That was incredible! You could actually play with Ice Blades as your main method of killing things, just having this field of them charging forward. What was so bad about that? It wasn't ridiculous, you could certainly balance it, but why cap them? You could only have 6 blades out. It's really kind of lame. Then you have Lightning Spear, which in a vacuum is a good ability. A stun lockdown on everyone in the room? Yeah, really cool. But in terms of damage, in terms of it killing things, in terms of using it because, yeah, this feels good, I'm going to attack you, not at all. It's just lame in that sense. Crackling energy chance to spawn one should be way higher, and you could do something super fun with that. And then Hydra. It does do decent damage, both burn and just raw crit if you go down that route, depending on invoked or summoned, but you can only have 2 of them, and then it's just sort of there, and you wait for them to hit things, and you weave it into a burn build, or you throw it up as extra on a different build, but every Sorcerer build only really has one purely offensive ability that's there for killing, everything else is to support it, so Hydra feels weird in that sense. So we're kind of left in a situation where all of the Conjuration is useful to other builds, but none of them will let you do a Conjuration build, which is an entire sector of our skill tree that you can't really focus on. Like, don't get me wrong, people have cleared tier 100 with Conjuration, but it is nothing spectacular, and it feels like it's missing something really, like, significant to just click and pull it together. Like, why does Hydra need to be limited to 1 Hydra? Like, just let us throw out Hydras, right? Maybe if it's unlimited it might get crazy, but walking into a room and using all your mana to pop up 10 Hydras? Now that is fun. Yes, there's the aspect that lets it be 2 instead of 1, but that's not exactly crazy. Like, if we could just have so many Hydras, many as we want, I mean, they're stationary, they can't go with you, it's not like it just propagates forward through the entire dungeon. Just let us keep plopping them out and have them as the mana spender of Conjuration. Use Ice Blades and Lightning Spear on cooldown, and then Hydra just constantly. We're already giving up 3 skill slots to use all 3 in a Conjuration build, which means you only have then 1 skill for a ultimate, and then you're down over here with just 2 defensives, which is a problem for Sorcerer, because you need probably more than that, and we're already paying for going full Conjuration, so let us go full Conjuration. It's definitely better than it's ever been. The paragon board for it, the glyph, there is some vampiric powers that help, but I really would love to do full Conjuration. It's been something that I've dreamt of ever since I first fell in love with Ice Blades back in the beta. So that's kind of where I'm at, what I wanted to talk about, the main areas that I would love to see properly build viable, but not just in a numbers sense, in a fun mechanical one going into Season 3 and beyond, and how I feel like there is a certain element of we're all so powerful that we don't feel any issues with our classes at the moment in Season 2, and I'm worried that that might not be the case in Season 3 when they start actually, you know, buffing and nerfing again, which surely they have to, otherwise it will be a power creep disaster. Let me know what you think, of course, and like if you have enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.